Hello, everybody. Good afternoon from Berlin. My name is Burkhard Vollbracht. I'm working here with a Berlin partner, and I'm super excited that we can set up this town hall call. It was a little bit back and forth. We originally planned it for Monday, but now I'm happy that it's gonna happen. Two technical remarks in the beginning. The session will be recorded, so just to let you know. And time-wise, as we have a super excellent speakers panel in the call, we decided not to have questions in the chat. We are open to receive questions afterwards. You just send them in by email, or best when we are visiting Istanbul next week, that you might simply raise questions once we are here. But so this is just time-wise in that regard. Only a small remark from the background of the call. Berlin Partner is the business development agency of the land of Berlin. So we are, in that sense, part of the government. And normally we try to bring companies to Berlin. On the other side, there is always an international dimension within Berlin Partner. So we have an international strategy, and Istanbul is an official partner city of the land of Berlin, and we used to have an office in Istanbul for 2 years, but it was closed down just for political reasons, and then Corona came. So we would like to revive this Berlin-Istanbul bridge, because we think in both cities we have a growing and exciting startup community. And it's really a simple thing to connect those both worlds. This is why we started this action today. The mayor of Berlin, Frau Giffey, she announced today at 11 o'clock a new startup agenda. And I think perhaps if you can read the news afterwards, that is a big thing for Berlin, though, that the mayor really decided to have this startup agenda. It's like an 8-side pages paper, and she is really trying to push the startup scene forward. On the international connections is one of those points which he highlights this morning. I missed the section myself, just because we have that called here. But so the political background from the Berlin side is really onto it. Istanbul is a very close and easy step. And with the panel today, we would like to give you some insights in people already, so to say, made it to Berlin or have one foot in Berlin and still another foot in Istanbul, to give you like a best practice. And as we just discussed, we know that Berlin is a cool city. Not everything is super cool. So we try to give you insight, what is super working, what is not so good working, and have an exciting panel here to give you some insights. I would like to further give on to Kemal. Kemal is super helpful in setting up the program next week when we join Istanbul. And he pushed me now, I guess, for 2 years, Kemal, to start this kind of cooperation. And I think with Corona, we were shortly before to start that. Then we postponed it just because of Corona, now, but now we are here. So Kemal, 3 words on your background and your agenda.
Sure. Thank you, Burkhard. And thanks, everyone, to join in and making this possible. My name is Kemal, and I'm also an entrepreneur for the last 10 years. I started in Turkey, then US, and now I'm in Germany for the last 3 years. With the program, I'm helping Berlin Partner and supporting them in Istanbul with this like the online and also on the offline side. And our goal is to, get together with Turkish startups and Turkish entrepreneurs and understand and deliver our experiences and understandings about Berlin and Germany to the friends, to the people who are actually thinking the same, maybe in Turkey. So that was like the main goal that we started this. And yeah, it's been some time, the COVID came through, and now it is possible. And now we made all the plan So after this online call, we will be in Istanbul next week. We will be meeting with all of you face-to-face, answering your questions. There will be 3 days event, and I mean, it will be full schedule. We have a lot of guests and a lot of local also supporters during that time. So it's super excited. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to take more time. I would like to get into our speakers and getting more about their experiences.
Wonderful. Perhaps we start with a short round, Kagan. So if you would like to say in 2 minutes, I think a lot of people watched your journey to Berlin, which is a super cool one. So perhaps in 2 minutes, how you made your first steps in Berlin.
I just booked a tourist visa, came to Berlin, quit my previous job, and I budgeted 20 euros for myself, rented a circus hostel, a 7 room, like room with 7 people. It was quite interesting room, but I loved it. Wrote 500 mails to people who I think might be useful for me to connect and maybe give me a job. And 50 of them replied. 3 of them wanted to meet. 1 of them gave me a job. And after that, just get it going, you know, like I called my ex-wife. I said, why don't you join here? She came over. It was super smooth once I got the job, I would say. But until that, it was a big uncertainty. After that, first job, second job, and at some point I want to be an entrepreneur, do the things myself. There's Alican and Yaprak on the call. I see that they're like, they were super like they were really seeing all of this process. I was telling them, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. Then I began. Basically, I want to do begin Gorillas. Then it was a horror story. Like the first 2 months, it was super bureaucratic. Nothing was really working. I had big time troubles until I met Berlin partners actually and hired a lawyer that can support me on the process. And Burkhard and I don't know if Jem is on the call. They helped me to move forward with the entrepreneurship visa. Then after, maybe I should, Burkhard, stop me if I'm talking too much. Yeah, like you said, 2 minutes, probably 2 minutes over. But after 2 months of waiting, I decided to just get going without the visa actually. So I just kept it going, and I was constantly calling Burkhard and Jem, you know, what's happening? They said, we don't know, it should have been there, your visa. The next day, I received like a file in my mailbox saying that you sent money to Lebanon, you're money laundering, testify to police, and you're all Turkish guys, you're all the same. They closed my bank accounts, they stopped anything about Gorillas. And I said, what the fuck is this? You know, like this is horror story. And immediately wanted to open a counter lawsuit. But apparently what happened is my tech partner was in Lebanon and they thought that I'm sending drug money to Lebanon, which wasn't the case. So I immediately opened the counter, like wanted to open a counter lawsuit, but the judge, like not the judge, but someone in the legal system understood that they made a mistake. They reopened the accounts and everything, and we just get it going. But bottom line is very inspiring people, like a big potential, currency is stable. There's a lot to do, and there's a lot of dry capital here in the VCs that prioritizes immigrants because of this grit, because there's no B plans, because you want to be here and create some value. So I think Berlin partners and also Jem, they are doing a fantastic job to make sure that we overcome those obstacles. So what I say is, bottom line, if you want to do business, I think Berlin is a really nice place to do business, or at least start business. If you have enough grit and if you get Berlin partners in the loop to overcome the obstacles. and don't quit in the obstacles. Yeah, like there will be obstacles, I can assure you.
I remember, especially the court thing. I think this was like a super surprise, bad surprise. What's going now? But we solved it. Yeah, thank you for that. Perhaps one short question back. When you look from a startup perspective, it could be London, it could be Paris, it could be San Francisco. So in the end, why you originally choose Berlin?
I mean, my family has a German school of thought. Yeah, like my grandfather was the first employee of Siemens in Istanbul. Germany was the first place that I came as a tourist when I was like a little guy. So I had connection with Germany, and this is one. And second thing is, I think Germany, when you look at the competition and the harshness of the competition, especially on the tech scene, is not as competitive as many other places like London or New York or San Francisco, while giving you the market potential. So I think if you bring those pieces together, Berlin was the optimum place to do the business. That's why I was living here. My house was here, so it was a bit a natural step.
Thanks. So perhaps Kagan, Kemal, you can then go in. Perhaps just go over to Alican. So you know Kagan for sure. So anything to add from your perspective in your first steps in Berlin?
Yes, we also came here kind of as a tourist, and we were thinking about actually to moving to New York those days, like 4 or 5 years ago. And then the Trump came and the New York was super politicized, and then we just be here for a chance. I'm a musician, and I was often here for the concerts. So then we just love the city at first.
But then, so, I mean, Alican is a musician, and I was an editor at Vogue. Yes. My last press job was Vogue. I was the features editor. We started making markets in Istanbul, and they became quite popular. But there were some unstable times. I'm talking 2015, 16. So the businesses that kind of that resembled ours, they were flourishing, but we had problem, doing more of the things we wanted to do, especially like local authorities. So we first went to New York, and it was very nice. But then when we came to Berlin to visit friends, it was a creative city, big city. Yeah. So many friends they started to move here, and all from the creative industries. It felt home, interestingly, because we were all, those days were not very easy days. And so we wanted some stability and to be able to make long-term plans. Of course, those were halted with Corona and the war, but still we liked the idea that we could make long-term plans, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to be here, actually.
And also it was nice to be in Corona times. It was nice to be in here, actually. And I also can say Berlin is kind of slow city if you compare with Istanbul or London or any other big cities, capitals. So that's why that you can just think about your projects more.
The work-life balance is good.
I mean, quite good. Then, that things getting a little slower, let's say, but it's in a nice way, Yeah.
No traffic rush, or like you can use those times more creatively or more.
I mean, city always helps. And I always go to work with my bike. It's super good when you're thinking about your project or next level or something. Is always, for me, it's very plus to do that. Every morning I can do that. It's priceless. I mean,
yes. And all these parks and greenery, the scenery. It helps your mood, really.
And also, I mean, for any specific thing. I mean, you can find your little circle here, your friends, the same interest people, let's say, you know. And
there's a big Turkish community, but there are also of course, like so many expats, but also Berliners, or like German friends from other cities. And it's a nice hub of international people and creative people, creative industries.
Okay, cool, guys. We can also move forward with because there are a lot of entrepreneurs in between us, and some of us are doing like business to business, some of us doing a business to customer. I mean, maybe I can go with Bahadır. Maybe you're doing B2B. You also started in Istanbul. So we can understand the challenges in between. How did you start from Istanbul and getting through this B2B business in Germany? If you can give a little, experiences, your experiences with that, so we can move forward with Ceyhun, maybe then Ozan, that would be great.
Definitely. So hi everyone, my name is Bahadır. I'm one of the co-founders of Fabrikator, which is actually an immigrant startup. It's also, I'm born and raised in Istanbul, and our company as well. We started in Turkey in 2018. Probably most of you know of the company called Parachute. We were integrated with Parachute in Turkey. We bootstrapped our business, so we did not take any external capital, became profitable in the Turkish market. And then 2020, we decided to go global. At that time, I was already living in Germany. And one of the main reasons we wanted to go global is because we got affected from the local winds and storms in Turkey quite a lot as a business. We were making money in Turkish liras, but spending in US dollars and euros. Every month becoming profitable and then falling behind the profitability due to the currency fluctuations. And then also there's this political instability that we had to face with in Turkey, especially after the military coup. It started to distract me and my team quite a lot. And we were like, hey, we're just building a tech business here. We shouldn't be dealing with day-to-day politics this much. So we need actually a more stable place, maybe a safe harbor to focus on what we are building, because we felt like we were just underperforming our potential. At that time, I think our first step in Berlin was around 2019, where Berlin partner invited us for an event that was like bridging the Turkish tech scene and Berlin. We had a booth at the, what was it called? Startup Night. So that was our first step there. And we started to understand how the bureaucracy works. At that time, we still didn't have a German entity. But then in 2020, at the perfect time for building a business, middle of the pandemic, we decided to move to Germany. We did a flip up. So we sold our Turkish company to our German company, made the German company as our headquarters. And it was super difficult because of the pandemic limitations, plus the German bureaucracy, of course, which was quite new to us. But we got a lot of support from Berlin partner. Even though we are still struggling with the visa stuff of my co-founder, we at least know that there is a local partner who is helping us. And I think these things will change in the future. The more international entrepreneurs and companies coming to Berlin, the processes and the law also has to adapt. So that's our experience today. We have investors mostly from Germany, but also from Europe. I have to say, as a founder, I found it easier to access capital in Europe in general, especially Germany. In terms of startup ecosystem and mindset, it is more mature, especially for early stage. In Turkey, it might be a little bit difficult to convince investors to your idea if you don't have traction. But in Germany, I see people are more open to giving it a chance to idea stage or early stage startups. Last bit is about being actually an immigrant or immigrant entrepreneur. Kaan also mentioned that when you don't have a plan B, all you have to do is just to do everything for becoming successful. And getting out of your comfort zone, being Turkey, Istanbul, wherever you live, is actually a great boost in, I don't know, just like coming out of your potential and just performing 200% of your potential, I would say. So this is definitely an experience that every entrepreneur should give it a shot, just to see how it feels to be outside of the comfort zone.
Yeah, and also with that investment scene, like I know Ceyhun for many years, and we both like used to be in San Francisco in Silicon Valley. and we had experiences there too, but now we ended up in Berlin. So Ceyhun, do you have any comments on that?
On what specifics, like as a comment?
I mean, when you experience the Silicon Valley, you understand like all the dynamic there, but then you also, whenever you do another idea to getting into different markets, then you choose Berlin. So what really changed, and what was the process and experience through that time for you?
Yeah, sure. A short intro about myself. My name is Ceyhun. I'm co-founder at TextCortex, which is an AI startup. Like about the question, like about the comment, like I actually never exactly planned to land up in Germany. It kind of happened out of maybe you can call it luck, but I had a previous startup called Tech, which was developing energy storage materials back in the day. So it got acquired by a Turkish investor, but they also had some investments in Germany in 2015. And then they decided to buy actually, a bankrupt solar production facility in Leipzig. And after that, like they bought my company and they also bought those facilities, and they offered me a job to actually like start working as a CTO for this company to produce like this energy storage materials and everything. So that's actually my story, how I ended up there. Before that, like we met with Kemal in San Francisco. But yeah, I never planned to do that actually, like to land in Germany. And so I can give you like an example from like the Leipzig to Berlin because I stayed there for some time, and I can tell you that it's not the best place to land as a Turkish guy. Also, like I think the Germans are maybe sharing the same view as well. I'm not really sure though. But yeah, it was not the greatest and the easiest place to start. But I had to do it somehow. Like all the stuff that you guys talk about, like the bank accounts and things like that, and like weird stuff happening, that the same things also happened to me. But Berlin is different. I think Berlin is like kind of like an island within Germany. It's not really like other German cities. One of the biggest reasons there's a lot of people coming abroad, and that's creating an effect, because like that's also like affecting the culture there. That is also affecting the entrepreneurship culture, because there's a lot of migrants, and the migrants are the ones have to create a life for themselves. So that's also kind of the definition of entrepreneurship. So you have to create something from ground up. And so that's why Berlin has the culture of entrepreneurship, actually, because of all these migrants coming in. About like the startup ecosystem, there's a lot of accelerators, really good ones. Entrepreneur First is like one of the ones that we came out from. And there's also some other ones. So it's a great start. Also, like if you don't know how to start, like these accelerators helps a lot. I didn't get into contact with Berlin Partner, so I don't have like I don't have some things to tell about that or feedback. But as I heard, like it's great. It's super helpful for people landing in Germany and Berlin, especially. Yeah. So basically about that. Other than this, like if it comes to my feedback about like how the investment ecosystem is, as Bahadır said, like it is actually pretty active, and there's a lot of capital, that's for sure. But if you're in like a deep tech, like I'm a deep tech entrepreneur, I started like companies, AI or like deep tech fields. In that sense, they're a little bit hard. So they would expect you to, if you're in that field, they are going to be expecting, the German investors are going to expect that you are having a PhD in the subject that you are founding as a company, which is like necessarily not, I mean, it's not that, I don't think there's like many people in Turkey have the time to get the PhD. So that might be an issue if you're doing a deep tech startup. But we had a lot of external, like other investors. So we have investors from Switzerland, we have investors from Austria. But that's also the great thing about it. So you are not bound to be only to German investors. When you're in Europe, it's the European Union really opens the door because of the law system, not the law system, but like it's how to say, like the countries are more compatible to each other, and that compatibility also brings the ease of access to capital. So maybe raising in Turkey from a European VC would be hard, but I think it would be easier in Germany, especially in Berlin, because they also have their offices located here. So a lot of international, like our investors already have their also offices here in Berlin. So that's also something very positive about founding something in Berlin. Yeah, that's basically it.
Great. And then maybe we can go with Ferhat because he has a totally maybe different story than most of us, right? So Ferhat, can you give a little info about yourself and your journey?
I have a natural reason to be in Berlin because I was born here. It wasn't a very logical decision. It just happened. But I raised in Turkey and came back in 2005 to Berlin to study here. I'm a mechanical engineer. I finished my studies here. And at the time I was an IT consultant and flying around and working in different companies, in offices and remote on the way. And after that, with my user perspective, I decided to open a co-working space. This is not really a startup, but it's a place for startups. And in 2019, it was a nice idea until the lockdown. We had our first customer, first member came through Berlin partner. Thank you for that. And we were still in construction, and Ingo came that time with Mustafa from users spot to me because they needed a business address, and this was one of the personas we defined before founding the co-working space, to make a place like for foreign startups, especially Turkish, of course, to come to Germany, have an address to found a company and have the first customer meetings in the meeting rooms. This is not an exclusive offer we have. You can do it in any co-working space, of course. But this was one of the things, and we didn't make this marketing like this, but it was the same demand with which Ingo and Mustafa came to me at that time, back in 2019, October. And really, it was like still construction, but I had my first member. It wasn't a financial impact, but it was like a proof, okay, this concept works.
Cool. And right now, what's your plan with the co-working space?
My plan for future.
Yeah, that's the future of Engelnest.
We have a quite unique place with very much self-made furniture, with very much upcycling things, and our people inside are very much in tech and sustainability. That's what we do, and we have also governmental companies inside, which is very uncommon for co-working spaces like BSR, BVG, Berliner Wasserbetriebe. All these companies, they have a common lab actually, and where they do infrastructure projects which goes more over one company, and these single companies are also using this space, and that's why we have a focus on mobility and energy, and try to cover all other social sustainability subjects.
Yeah, this is also like a good subject, because like there are some priorities in Berlin, also in Germany, as a sector, as an industry, that they want more startups, more entrepreneurs regarding with that areas. And sustainability, for example, or climate change is one of the most important subjects right now. So that's why I think it's a good approach with that. And yeah, lastly, we can go with Ozan. Ozan, if you can, give a little experience about you, because you also have an interesting product. So if you can give a little info about that, it would be great.
Sure, Kemal, thanks. Hi, I'm Ozan. I'm co-founder of Cravers, where it's a startup where we focus on hazelnut snacks, the healthy hazelnut snacks that comes from Turkey. And we just started the company a year ago. And a bit more interestingly, my background is not about food, about entrepreneurship at all. I am a designer. I do branding mostly. Why I came to Germany is I came 4.5 years ago to study in Weimar. It's a city in Thuringen. It's a small one, smaller than Kadıköy, let's say. Before that, I was in Los Angeles, and then Istanbul, and then Weimar. It was a drastic change already in terms of every scale that you can think. Like a Truman Show, 2 years, that was amazing, full of green stuff, all nice people. And after that, I moved to Berlin. It's a typical move for the students there. You study a master's degree and you move to Berlin. It's super close, it's sexy, full of Turkish people and nice people and all. But then Corona happened, obviously. Didn't get much lead. I was running a studio called Paleworks with my partner, and we were mostly doing branding and creating the other startup stories. They were reaching out us. Gorillas was one of those, actually. And after some point, I became vegan, and Berlin is such a vegan-friendly city. It's full of sustainability stuff and all nice vegan places, which I love. And as a foreigner, without speaking almost no German, starting a food business is not the brightest idea in terms of bureaucracy and all nice stuff. But somehow it happened because I wanted to create an impact in terms of food and try to make something nice and also introduce the hazelnuts of Turkey to the world, you know, not Nutella, but us maybe. And we have 2 other co-founders in Istanbul. And that's why we need even Berlin partner more, because the integration maybe goes through them. And the interesting thing about my life is normally I was serving for startups, right? People like you come to us to a design studio. They tell the story. Okay, we have this time, this budget. We have this amount of time. Can you make something interesting? But for the first time now, I feel myself in this both sides simultaneously, back and forth. I have to do the creative work, but also I have to run the company. And being an entrepreneur and also trying to stay as a creative guy is not easy. When Yaprak was mentioning about work-life balance, it's not valid for me, I can say. Upfront, 7 days a week of work and almost no break, full of burnouts. We are not profitable now, but we are getting there. But as a city, I think I would only make it in Berlin, not in Hamburg or in Munich. And why Germany? Why Berlin? Like Kaan, it was also my first city that I visited in Europe. It was in Munich. I came to study like 15 years ago. And then I felt in love with the black and white of everything. It's not as gray as Istanbul in terms of the decisions, the things. Yeah, we will figure it out. Yeah, it's not like that. It's either black or white. If you play well, if you do the things right, everything's going to be okay and the problems will be solved. If you do not do that, if you try to find back doors, you will have a backlash. And yes, it sounds cliche. The bureaucracy is slow here, and I'm working with Burkhard as well for my residence permit change, because I am registered as a freelancer here. I do service, but now I have this company, so I have to be employed and all. It's taking months. That's a no-brainer. You have to admit that you will have to spare some time to figure out the stuff, all these nice bank accounts, all this bureaucracy. You will have it for sure. But having the help of Cem and Burkhard, all this Berlin partner, it makes it easier, obviously. And yeah, for now, that's it.
Thank you very much. So already a lot of feedback on Berlin Partner, though. I think we cannot help everybody, but we love to do so. Kaan, perhaps you mentioned that when you started here in Berlin, lived in a hostel, whatever, with 7 persons. So we have now a close look on the business side. So accommodation, language, culture. So how big is the obstacle? So when I try to introduce Germany to foreigners, I very often say we are paperwork people. So as long as you give us a certificate or a wonderful paper, everything is fine. But we don't talk to people. We are not discussing with people. So this kind of bureaucracy we have. So I don't know what the difference in Istanbul is. So once you come back over here in Berlin, so how to cope with that?
Burkhard, before I reply, who is the audience listening to us so that I adjust a little bit accordingly? Is it like us like 5 years ago trying to come to Germany, or is it like?
It's more like that. Yeah, there are like entrepreneurs, students, and mostly in Istanbul and Turkey.
Okay, good. And just to restate your question, you just asked, how is the bureaucracy culture, accommodation and stuff, right? I mean, I think it's just like any other place. I wouldn't. Of course, there has been some weird stuff happening, but I mean that could happen everywhere. I think the key thing is, and I think we also like to complain a little bit about. I'm also myself, you know, that happened, this happened, big obstacles we overcame. Like this is the story. I think we're also in love with that story. I'm in love with that story myself. I think the key thing is, rather than thinking what were the obstacles, I haven't seen a single person that really wanted to do it and couldn't do it. So I think that's the way to look at it. Of course, there are sometimes there are like very obstacles. Like, for example, I never heard someone departed from anything from Germany. So I don't think there are like huge obstacles. It's just there are some obstacles or like to-dos, and you just need to execute one by one. And this is how I would look at it. If you want to do it, you just do it, you know?
It's very thought-minded, I guess.
Yeah, but yeah, like, listen, I mean, when I first came here like 15 years ago, just like Ozan, I applied 3-4 times to different places and no one took me as an employee. And I said, okay, like, I need to go back to my base, to Istanbul. I need to get some apolet in Turkish, we call it, like a couple of apolets, so that, you know, when you come back, you're stronger. So I went back to Turkey, worked on a couple of places, and after that, when I came back, I was much stronger, and I just didn't like. This was a goal that I was. Then when I came here, nothing could have stopped me. I mean, you should have literally physically should have taken me out and placed me in the next country. Other than that, I would have done it. But this was only thing for me. I really wanted to do it in Europe because I was super upset about like all of the political situation, distractions, lack of creativity, religion, all of this kind of stuff. I just want to be out of that circus. So there was no other way, and whatever came to my way, I just looked at it as a to-do list, and I asked Jim, and turned around. But maybe I need to leave. But before I leave, if people listening to us is like 5 years ahead of the, us 5 years ago trying to come to Germany, at the moment there's a craziness happening in the world, and especially on the tech scene. And a lot of this capital and investments that we are talking about has changed drastically, and there's the opportunities of today is not like opportunities of 2-3 years ago, and this actually creates a big obstacle for people that are going to come here and search for work, because unemployment, in my point of view, especially in tech and startup scene, will increase tremendously. And just to give an example, we just laid off 3,500 people from our organization over the course of last 6 months. So, but this creates an opportunity, especially people in Turkey, because a lot of people are looking now offshoring or nearshoring some of their services. And if you're now in Turkey and thinking about a way to Germany, you can definitely be part of something that does business with Germany, or build something that will work for Germany. So opportunity is not in Europe or in America at this very moment, but you can make your way by serving America or Europe, or already doing business in Istanbul or in somewhere in Turkey. So if I would come to Germany today, I wouldn't go to Circus Hostel and try to make my way, but build my thing in Turkey and serve, just like Bahadır's story. Bahadır's story is super valid at the moment for today's macroeconomics, in my point of view.
Thank you very much that you joined us and told your story. So I think we keep in touch. And
Also, I invest, and I know people who would like to invest in immigrants. Just write me on LinkedIn and send me if you have an idea for the team. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. See you
Ciao.
soon. Ciao.
See you.
So any other comment on this cultural and living accommodation background? So any tips for the people in Istanbul? What is the best way to start here in Berlin?
I can go. We also had an accelerator. It's called APX. So that accelerator gave us the first capital and also the consultancy to how to land in Berlin, how to go with the bureaucracy. It helped us quite a lot, especially during the pandemic time. We are like, as an immigrant, when you come here, your network is limited if you don't know anyone. And just in the recent 2 years out of my 5 years experience in Germany, I recently started to feel like my network is now giving back to me. So an accelerator would be a great start to make things easier for you, at least connecting with people.
We didn't have an investor. We came with our own funds, and we are called Suk Dükkan. We have a store on Kolvistrasse now. We have a store in Istanbul. We started out with markets, events, and then we came here. We started doing events here, and we came without any investors. But I mean, there's a fund of design and new things and new ideas. So I don't know, it's an open-minded place. You can also take a shot, try to take a shot with your own funds too. I wanted to add that. And also never forget to open your mailboxes on a daily basis if you're thinking about living in Germany. That's a very interesting point for, I think, all the Turkish people.
Maybe I can put a question in the middle. What do you guys think about the future of Berlin and the future of Turkish communities in here, especially when you look at in the tech side and this kind of startup based community? I know we're not a lot right now, but what do you think about it? Is it going to increase, or with the whole investment scene? Do you have any comment on that?
I think, so how I came here in the first place, I was an employee. I came with a blue card working for a company as a head of product. And then I switched to my own company. So the reason I moved to Germany was because all of my classmates from Boğaziçi University was already here. My core friend group was here. And I was the 6th or the 7th one who moved within that group. It made it super easy for me to follow their footsteps in terms of bureaucracy, settling down in the city. So it was a great enabler. And I think the same thing is happening for startups too. The more Turkish founders are coming here, building their companies, the number is growing. And also the knowledge sharing, the cross-pollination between the networks are getting better and better. So the chances of a founder who wants to move to Berlin today and the difficulties they're going to face will be less than the ones that we had, because now they have more people who can help them follow the best practices, etc. So I think it's going in a positive direction. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
I can add maybe one thing. It's good that we're not doing only donor anymore in Germany.
Yeah, I mean, that's the mainstream understanding, but that's something we can also easily say to the crowd. It is not really easy, maybe as a startup founder, to start a business here, but I think it's getting easier and easier each day, as Bahadır said. And yeah, as you said, we're not doing our business, but let's see, yours is also in the food industry. So you're also making your innovation through in a different channel. So I think the possibilities are always there, and it just depends on us. I mean, if you really like to do something, as Kaan said, by the way, there are also some things that we can bring into the German economy, and it's growing and growing. So there will be some needs through that, and that's where the startups and ideas are coming in. If we can, play with the rules, I think that will be create a huge value not just in Germany, but also all over the world.
Perhaps Ingo, you are the colleague in Berlin Partner dealing a lot with the startup scene. Any experiences from your side and how the startup scene is growing? Bahadır mentioned that there is a Turkish community, I guess, but in the end, I always see it as a very international one. So a lot of experts from all over the world. And this, what from my point of view, makes the startup scene that strong here in Berlin, that we really have the influx from so many different regions and nations.
Yeah, sure. So hi to everyone. Exactly, Burkhard. It's we are the most international city in Germany. So totally fine for you guys if you open up a startup over here and hire people to have like English as your first language, because you would probably hire if you have like around 20 to 30 people, backgrounds from probably 10 different nationalities. So totally fine with that. Also talking to German investors and clients, you can do that definitely in English, but later on, if it goes to contracts and so on, you should get the support of a local lawyer or tax consultant who then can go through the contracts and so on. But it's not only the internationality that makes Berlin quite unique over here, but also kind of openness. So meetups, for example, really accelerated over the last couple of 5 years, I would say. So for every question you have, for every desire you have, for any business related stuff, you could find a meetup in Berlin with like 10 to even 1,000 members, and they meet regularly. And if you go there, they're quite open to introduce you to their networks. And it's not only via these meetups, but also now after Corona is hopefully finished, there will be more events coming up again, pitching events, conferences, hackathons, and so on that you can join. And again, there as well with the meetups and get introduced to the community. So there's, for example, also a Turkish tech meetup group, but also, as I said, for any kind of problem that comes there, or in your business world, you could find maybe some answer via these meetups. And also you can always consult us. We try to give you like a soft landing for any question that you have, so to make your arrival very smooth. And we already got here in the room around quite a good feedback on visa support and so on, but we would also help you with finding office space. So Ferhat has a great co-working space, but also in the other quarters of Berlin, if you want to go to some other districts, there's spaces all over Berlin. You don't have to be in the city center. We are not like monocentric, like, I don't know, London or Paris or whatever. We have to pay prime rent, but there are different hubs all over Berlin. So it's quite unique and maybe makes it easier for you also to arrive over here. So just some short insight.
Can I add one thing to Ingo's comments?
Sure.
Since our audience is the people that want to come to Berlin and start something up here, in my perspective, how I would do it if I was living in Istanbul and trying to make it to Germany and open up a company here, the first thing that I would do is hiring a German tax advisor before structuring the company, like how you would go with the shareholder structure and the company structure, all this legal tax stuff. You have to hire a tax advisor, pay 300 euros hourly or whatever, but still, I would do it maybe in help of Berlin Partner. Maybe they have a great network of tax advisors that specialized in startups and tech. I would do that.
At the same time, in the crowd, there could be some like students and also like artists, freelancers who would like to come Berlin and to work here, not only just starting a company. It's not necessarily needed. I mean, that's also another part that you can find the freedom here. That's I think also one of the important part.
I can also add something to that, Kemal, because I came here as a student, like I did my master's degree here. You can do that 2 years of master's study, and then the government is allowing you to work as an employee or a freelancer another 18 months more. So it's a nice freedom to choose what to do here. Even you can start building something while searching another job or working in a cafe. So that 1.5 years of period of time after your master's degree, I think it's super valuable, which they can also take, of course, instead of starting up a company.
And adding to that, maybe talking about universities. So Berlin's also a big university town. There are over 200,000 students. We have like 3 major universities and around 20 specialized universities, also private universities. So I guess for the audience, anything you're studying right now, if there are students in there, there might be equivalent in Berlin to do your master's, as Ozan mentioned. And we can, that's also one of our tasks, to give you an inside overview of all these opportunities as well, definitely.
Burkhard, do you have any other question, or maybe we can come to the closing?
Yeah, my closing question in that sense to everybody would, do you have this 1 or 2 top advices you would give to people make it to Berlin? And I don't know whether you have one, don't do that in that sense. So anything which you think, okay, like Ozan said, take a tax advisor. I would comment in a sense of the best are to have a view on immigration, tax-wise, and corporate law. Then you have everything together, because if you get only advice on one of those parts, the parts perhaps do not fit together. So there are some specialists having this complete view coming from outside and putting together, but just to add on that. So any sort of say super 1 to 2 what you have to do first when you come to Berlin, and perhaps one where you think, okay, don't do that starting here in Berlin.
So maybe one advice, even if you're already experienced with your startup locally in Turkey, to attract VCs to pitching events, go here and, or if you come over here, join some of these pitching clinics, because as it was already mentioned, for example, deep tech AI companies, they're more, or the German investors may be more focused on the technical background and your experiences over there, so that there might be some small differences, but that have a huge impact if you get the deal or not. So and there are plenty of these clinics and open mic pitching opportunities with trainers, coaches over here that you can join for free. So do that if you come over here, and get more experience with that local VC circle, definitely. So, and yeah, that would be one do and one not to do, to just come over here with maybe the focus, or how you used to do it in Istanbul.
I can also start with that, and then maybe I can lead it to Alican. But before saying that, I can say, I think do improve your English. I mean, that's like the most important thing. Still, if you can be a great founder, you can be a good student or an artist, you need to be a good English speaker, because in Berlin, there's no priority that you need to have a German. So that's also a big plus for you. When you compare it with different cities in Germany, it's really unique. But then you need to have a good English. I mean, that's the most important thing. And the second, in Turkey, yeah, I think Ozan said, all this backdoor tryings, to make your thing possible. It's kind of like a culture in Istanbul, because everything is just so chaotic, and then you kind of train to be like that. But you don't need to be here. So you just follow the rules. You have to have kind of like a simple mind. So then if you follow those, if you know what you want to achieve at the end, then you can do it. And that's the do's that you can have. So Alican, would you like to continue?
Yeah, yes, definitely. And I can add, do your paperwork well. It will help, and get used to about it. And at first, it looks like a bit complicated for us from Istanbul, because we don't have that culture. But then I just figure out it's actually super nice to do that because you're always organized about your business or your next step. And when you get used to, you'll become better about it. And I can also suggest never buy a 2-year contract phone in Germany. Yeah, I mean, you always forget about what was the year. And yes.
Maybe you can lead it to someone in the group. Then you will choose who is gonna be the next.
Sorry, I didn't get it.
You can say the next one who will be saying the do and don'ts. So you can choose in between us, and then we can continue with that.
Yeah, Yaprak.
Ceyhun would like to add something about do's and don'ts.
I think like we are like circling around the same things generally. Like we have like the same kind of experience about the documentation and being organized and everything is absolutely right. Yeah, I cannot really think about any maybe one life pro hack if it's like possible. Also like having a German co-founder helps a lot. So I have a German co-founder and he knows like a lot of stuff much better than I do, and that is very helpful. So I can focus only on tech, so I don't have to think about all this kind of stuff. But of course, it's not a must. But if you can, that's a nice thing. And other than just one maybe last remark is I mean, if you think about you're coming from a different country to here, so there is nothing against you or anything. But of course, it's going to be hard because you're coming to a new country and you have to follow the rules and you have to fit into what is going on there. And don't just get disheartened by that. That is normal. And think about it. If you were coming from Germany into Turkey, you would have also gone through maybe same kind of shocks or differences, or that seems really different. But that is not specifically done to you. It's not hey, you come here and now you have to do it this kind of things. But this is the normal. Everyone is doing that, so you need to get along with it. That's what I wanted to add.
Maybe I can continue super small thing. Even though Kemal mentioned that you need to have a good English, I regret that I don't speak that much German. I think it's still good to have A2 level, maybe at least, because if you want to build a business, it's helpful. If you're just here for studying, then you might have a way out to getting of it. And also you shouldn't be picky about housing. It's super hard here. When you first move, you shouldn't be super picky about, oh, this place is not good. You just have to take whatever you can find in the first 6 months and then you figure it out. And yeah, and I also do agree with the German co-founder. It makes things easier. Then maybe Bahadır, did you already?
No. So I think one part about I would say do embrace your background and always remember that when you come here, you actually come from different conditions. I would call it some of them are more difficult because we're coming from more unstable place, more uncertainty. And this is actually your strength. What's happening right now in the world, maybe people who are coming from more stable countries and backgrounds are being more open to the dangers of the instability the world is going through, but you're more resilient. You're coming from a place that is already difficult. So embrace that and just build on top of that. That's one of the recent learnings I had, maybe awakenings about ourselves. And the don't part, I don't know, Kemal already mentioned the backdoors and other things that may not work. I think being one thing that you may always hear, Germans are super direct. I would actually use that because being direct in a business environment sometimes really helps. And you don't need to make guesses about what people really mean. So it's a cultural shift. Don't bring the culture that we have at home about having the secondary meanings about what we mean, but be direct with people. It will save you time and energy. And I see that people are not offended when you be like that. So I think it's a good thing. Wait, I pass it to Ferhat, I guess.
Yeah, I'm the only one who didn't speak it. I actually wouldn't give any advice how to do it, because all speakers today have a different story. Some Khan came as a tourist here, and another came, Ceyhun, you had a VC inviting you here or something like that. Or you have a German co-founder, or you come to study here, and all speakers today are more or less now in Berlin and successful. I know also more elder entrepreneurs, of course, because I'm born here. The generation of my father and my grandfather, they came without any foreign language. Maybe it's good you don't know English, because then you will learn German. It can also have a positive impact. Every success story has something in common, but also very deep differences. And I think the only advice I can give is be aware of what you want, and don't start too early, don't start too late. It's your idea, it's your plan, you know when the right time is, but be brave enough to make the next step, and that's it.
I guess that was a super fine closing remark, Ferhat. So first of all, thank you very much for all those different stories. I think there's like a patchwork which really fits good together, as you mentioned, on different ways where the people really that their first foot on the ground here in Berlin. For the audience, I think hopefully we can give you the idea of there is a welcoming structure here in Berlin. It's either our network here, it's Berlin Partner, so we are open to help you here to make it in Berlin. In the end, we would like to have it in both cities, so to say, not only just a brain drain thing, just to pick all the people from Istanbul to Berlin, but perhaps you can bring some German entrepreneurs to Istanbul. So building that kind of a bridge, we just started. Next week, we are super excited to be there on the ground, to have the 3 days program, to see you face by face. And the only thing I can promise is it's not the last time that we go there. We will follow up next year and go further on and have different opportunities to see. I think just be free to send us emails afterwards, might get connected via LinkedIn. So I think we are all easy to find, and if possible, then we meet up next week. Kemal is the head of organization in that sense. He has all the details. Kemal, you would add something on that?
Yeah, first of all, thank you. I mean, thank you and Berlin Partner, you made it possible. And thanks for our speakers. I know you guys, it's been hard to, finding a company here, all this process. You're maybe one of the first Turkish startup founders in this community. So I can understand that it should be really hard through that time, but now we are giving these experiences to the people who would like to do the same. And this is, I think, for the audience, it's a free and very important knowledge that you will experience in the future. So we are all, like me and all the people in here, we are all open your questions. If you have any need any support and everything, we will be always here. And easier your job and your process through that time. And thanks for the Berlin Partner. They are also making this helpful and easier for all of us. And yeah, for the closing, next week we will be in Istanbul, and the program and an agenda is all fixed. So we will be seeing you there. And if you have any personal questions, you can also link with me in LinkedIn, and yeah, mail me. I will be always helping you through that time. And yeah, thanks for the time for today. It was great, I think. Great insights, and thank you again.
Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks.